Why have I joined Advance UK? Good question. A question many people are asking me. And it's complicated. The first thing is, I realised after I stood for Mayor of Greater Manchester last year that I needed to join a party if I was going to carry on standing. Because standing as an independent is impossible to win the election, and it's expensive. And I used my own money to run, and I don't have that money anymore, so therefore I couldn't mount a successful campaign now. But after the election, I then decided I'm going to try reform again, because I stood for reform 4 years ago, and I decided reform isn't gelling with me, so I left. But I went back at Christmas, and after 4 or 5 months I realised this still isn't the party for me. For many reasons. First of all, far too many Tories. They've turned into Tory 2.0. It's where Tories go now to be elected again, because the Tory party itself may be eternally damaged. But at the moment, Tories are going, I'm going to lose my seat. I'm going to jump to Reform UK, because they'll take anybody at the moment. So I didn't like that. I understand why they're doing it, but I didn't like that. How can we expect the people who broke the country to fix the country? So I didn't like that. But number one reason why I left Reform was their stance on immigration. They don't have one. They're a pro-migration party. People think they're not, but they are. Of course, they're against illegal migration, but so are nearly all the parties against that. And they may fix that. They may. But they're still pro-migration. They want us to rely on immigration. They want more migrants coming over. They're just going to control it better. And they're saying we're going to improve the system. Well, that's great, improve the system. I don't want a system. I want zero immigration. And the final straw for Reform UK for me was 3 things that happened in 10 days. The first one was the new chair, David Bull, talking about how immigration is the soul of this country. I can't remember exact words now, but we rely on immigration. That's what built the country. It's fun. I was like, oh, shut up, you tart. Immigration built this country. No, it didn't. And it's rhetoric like that is part of the problem. And then we had Richard Tice, deputy leader, saying he got asked in an interview, a new study's come out saying that white British are going to be a minority in the UK by 2060, and he laughed. Who cares? I'll be dead by then. Why are we always worried about this? Why worry about this all the time? I want the UK to always be a white British country. Because if it's a not white British country, then it's not UK anymore, is it? And why do you think people are coming here for a better life? And if we turn this country into the shithole they've come from, we've done them a disservice as well as the people who live here and my ancestors. So don't laugh about it. Don't laugh about it and say, who cares? I care. People care. And the final straw was the big man himself, Nigel Farage, at a conference giving a speech in Wales about we're going to take over Wales. Great. We're going to build houses. We're going to build homes for Welsh people. And then someone asked him, Nigel, what is a Welsh person? And he said, oh, someone who's lived in Wales and paid taxes for about 5 years. They're not a Welsh person, you idiot. A Welsh person is someone who's born in Wales, whose ancestors were born in Wales, and has got some sort of Celtic DNA. That's a Welsh person, not a migrant or an English person who turns up in Wales for 5 years, pays tax and gets a house. They're not Welsh. And that was the final straw. So I resigned from the party. But I've had enough now. And then I was looking around going, I'm not joining any more parties now. I'm sick of all of them. I'm sick of it. And then Advance was launched. And I thought, let me have a look at Advance. And I got Ben Habib onto my podcast. And I said, right, Ben, let me tell you my 5 priorities. And you tell me what you want, what Advance is going to do about my 5 priorities. And then if you can convince me in these 5, I'll join. And we spoke for an hour. And I joined. Because everything he said was spot on. Everything he said is what I want and what I believe in. So I joined Advance. because I want a better country. And having a party, Reform UK, which is better than Tories and Labour. Yes, they are better than them. I get that. I know that. But I don't want a party that's just better than the crap we've got now. I want a party that's got a vision that's going to take us somewhere better. Reform just seem to be making stuff up as they go along. 6 months ago, Nigel Farage was saying, we're not deporting illegals. It can't be done. It can't be done. That's what he said on TV. It can't be done. Logistically, it can't be done. 6 months ago, he said that. And then once he realised the public mood had changed, he went, we're going to deport all illegals. Really? It couldn't be done 6 months ago, mate. But now it can be done because you see votes in it. That's not the sort of politician I want. That's not the sort of Prime Minister I want, who's jumping on the bandwagon for votes. Because it's easy to jump off a bandwagon. And it's easy to jump back on again, off and on, off and on. That's why nothing gets done. I don't trust reform on immigration. Now, are Reform going to win the next election? And what's advance about? Well, if there's an election today, it looks like Reform are going to win. It looks like that. That's what the polls say. But if the election isn't for another 3.5 years, anything can happen in 3.5 years. Reform won't stay this high in the polls forever. It's a honeymoon at the moment, but mistakes will happen. People will see the amount of people who tell me they're Reform voters, who tell me I'm voting Reform because they're going to get rid of all the immigrants and they're going to stop. It's like, have you seen their policies? Have you heard what they're talking about? So most people don't know what Reform stands for. Most people think Reform are voting for Reform because they're not the Tories and they're not Labour. And that's a good enough reason at the moment for most people to support Reform UK. But the more you find out about Reform UK and what they want, some people will turn away from them. Just like me. Now, 3.5 years is a long time. Anything can happen. If the Tories get their act together, the Tories, just by themselves, can heavily damage Reform UK. If they elect Robert Jenrick as leader, he's a nightmare. He's a nightmare for Reform UK. If Tories will jump 5, 6, 7 points. They've got the infrastructure. And I'm not saying we should vote for Tories. No, we shouldn't. But they will do better in the polls, and they will take votes off Reform UK. But 3.5 years from now, what can we expect from Advance UK? Well, at the moment, the party itself that I'm a member of, I'm a member of their college, so I'm going to be helping to design some policies around social issues, around crime, knife crime, homelessness, rough sleeping, young people. That's what I'm going to be looking at and getting some policies out for the party. Why? I've got 2 decades experience of this. I've got a cabinet full of awards for this type of work. But that's what's different about Advance UK. Reform is a dictatorship. What do reforms say on certain subjects? Ask Nigel, because it all comes from Nigel. Nigel makes up as he goes along, which is fine. It's a one-man band. He's a dictator. Fine. But Advance UK is different. Advance UK is going to create policies by having working groups, by involving the college, by 100 people who get elected eventually onto the college, by listening to the grassroots. And every policy will be voted on by the members. That sounds a little bit like democracy to me. And some of these policies that'll come through, I won't agree with. But do you know what? That's called democracy. And we're not going to get everything we want in a party. But as long as it's fair, as long as we feel we can have a say and we can influence, then that's enough for me. And the vision of Advance UK is spot on. Smaller state. Deport all illegals. Virtually end immigration. I'm going to push them and try to get it to all. But hey, if it's going to be virtually all, I can live with that. Because they're talking about, having a minimum wage for anyone coming into the country will be about £80,000, £90,000. So unless your job pays that, you can't get a work visa. That will end 99% of immigration overnight. I can accept that. But the main thing I want Advance UK to do, and this is what we're talking about, and this is what I think they're going to do, is about love of the country. It's about bringing us together. It's about creating a nation once again. We need to get away from the way we are at the moment, which is sectarian, which we're breaking up into groups. We've got Christians there, Muslims there, Bangladeshis there, Jews here. We need to get away from that, because those little communities are not the nation. And those little communities will only look after themselves and only care about themselves, because that's how they live in the countries they come from. We need mass integration, and then we need a project on a simulation. 20, 30, 40 years from now, I'd like to get to a stage where it doesn't matter where your ancestors came from. It doesn't matter what religion you are, because all that's in private. But everybody here should be, I'm British, I'm English, I'm Welsh, I'm Scots, I'm Irish. That's what I am. And I have no affiliations to foreign countries. I may have cousins in India. I may have cousins in Ireland, Southern Ireland. But I don't care one jot about those countries. I only care about this country. And I may be a minority in my religion. But it doesn't matter, because we don't talk about religion. And this is a Christian country. And I know it's a Christian country. And I can see the benefits of this being a Christian country. And the big benefit is living in a Christian country means you can practice any religion you want. How about that for a benefit? You try that across the Middle East. Practicing a different religion across the Middle East. Then you'd be persecuted. But some of these things are private. And we don't need to know. That doesn't mean you hide it. We just don't need to know. It's not important. But we need to build a dream, a vision of what's going to bring us all together. Is it the nation? It has to be the nation state. Is it the monarchy as well? I'm not too keen on Prince Charles. They're all a bit woke and all a bit green, and same with Prince William. I'm not too sure. Queen was great, because we never knew what she thought. We never knew, and we don't need to know, but we know what everyone else thinks. What's going to bring us together? We need to celebrate our history. We need to celebrate our traditions. We need to embrace that. Even if they're not your traditions and history today, they should be, and you should be working hard to make sure that's your tradition, that's your history. We need to break up these ghettos. We need to get rid of identity politics. We need more community stuff. We need our schools better, teaching belonging, teaching history, teaching the wonderful things we've done. The English, the British. We created the modern world. Most of the science, most of the medicine. That's what we created. The World Wide Web, the jet engine. We gave the world our language, English. We gave it away. We never accused anyone of cultural appropriation. It's like the business suit we created. So we all can do business together as equals. I wrote a book on this. I wrote 2 books on this. Buy them on Amazon. England, My England, and my latest one, Anglophobia. Both of them excellent. We need to create a nation state where we all belong and we all feel we belong. And we need to get away from, I live here, I make money here, but I'm really a Pakistani, but I'm really a Nigerian, I'm really an Irish Republican. If that's how you feel, you need to leave. You need to leave. And that's what Advance UK is going to be delivering over the next couple of years. Policies on all these things. It's the future. As Peter Kay would say, it's the future. We've got to win this country back. And it starts by having a vision for the country, a vision for the people. Otherwise, they're just policies. Otherwise, we'll fix this problem with this policy. Not understanding that policy will create more problems that we've got to fix. You need the vision. You need the vision of what we want this country to be, how we want to live. And then all the policies contribute to that vision. That's how we get a better tomorrow. And that's why I joined Advance UK. Check Advance UK out, and if you like it, join as a member. Okay, please subscribe, and I'll see you next time.